Hello, WrestleNet Radio Podcast YouTube viewers, and welcome to another edition of our YouTube exclusive show, the Wrestling Magazine Spotlight. Nate Maxon here, and as you can see, I am joined by my brother Aaron this time around.
Hello, everybody.
And for those of you that are watching for the first time, this is just a thing where I have a deluge of wrestling magazines here in the We Can't Wrestle studio. I put a poll up in our Facebook group to let our listeners pick what magazine we will go through cover to cover. We do not read the articles. It would be a 9-hour show if we read every word of the magazine. We do not read the articles or what have you, but we do go through the headlines. We go through, and it gives you something to talk about. Of course, we'll go through the rankings, but just to talk about the wrestlers that are featured, the stories that were going on at the time. And this time around, the listeners of the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network picked the edition of The Wrestler from October of 1985. So we're looking at news from around June of 85, because that's what the rankings say as of June 26th, 1985.
And if I have anything to say with it, we read some of the advertisements because those are some of my favorite things.
You know what? It's funny that you say that. I actually went through the advertisements of this magazine to see if anything stuck out to me, and it's all the same shit from that last one we did.
Oh, all right.
So
it's fine.
Yeah, we won't have any funny ones this time around.
Maybe read a couple of letters.
On the cover of this magazine, the cover story, Dave Schultz gets an NWA title shot. Ric Flair says, "I wrestle the men Hulk Hogan is afraid of." I'm assuming this is probably just after Schultz had been fired by the WWF. So
unjustly, I'll say that on my dying day. He should have been put on the shoulders of the people around. And honestly, he probably was put on the shoulders of those around him, except he was, how do I want to say it?
He persona non grata.
Yeah. Like, that's one where I think Vince probably didn't even want to do the firing. Vince probably was like, "I appreciate what you did, pal, but there's too much heat. You got to go."
It is what it is.
Yeah.
The other article or other features here on the cover of the magazine: how the fans saved George the Animal Steele. Introducing Kendall Windham, Barry Windham's younger brother. And IWF champion Misty Blue changing the look of women's wrestling. What I did find interesting here in the cover, and I know IWF was Kowalski's promotion, but for the cover photos, for the credits, it says cover photos: Flair versus Schultz by Chaz Fenn, Misty Blue by Walter Kowalski, which means like Killer Kowalski took this photo of Misty Blue to send in to the wrestler.
Was it in his den?
That's what I'm saying. Like it almost sounds like it's like a pervy thing.
Yeah.
Let the killer take a picture of you.
Afternoon Delight was playing. Crystal Blue Persuasion on the phonograph.
Oh, shit. So turning the page here, we get to What's Happening by Bill Apter. This is all the news going on at the time. Interesting lead here. And what must be considered a major setback in his championship career, WWF heavyweight champion Hulk Hogan was unsuccessful in his challenge against Antonio Inoki for Japan's coveted IWGP title. Inoki dominated the match, reports Japanese correspondent Jimmy Suzuki. According to Suzuki's account, Inoki dazzled Hogan with dropkicks, suplexes, and takedowns. Finally, after being on the receiving end of a devastating series of maneuvers, Hogan, a former IWGP champion himself, was counted out of the ring, and Inoki retained his title. So it's almost over. You're not going to see until they do the thing with the SWS and like 91 or 90. But the relationship with the WWF and Japan is pretty much over here. But apparently Hogan did a shot over there against Inoki.
Yeah, and they would. I'm not going to say that I'm like a huge Japanese wrestling like historian or whatever, but they use the count out finish as kind of like the dusty finish over there.
Yeah,
they didn't want to. Neither guy wanted to get pinned. So they would save face with everybody by doing the count out.
Yeah, and essentially, Inoki's got to come back next week.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that was kind of like um one of the big things with like when Vader went over there, like Vader squashed Inoki like super quick,
Mm-hmm.
pinned him, and everybody freaked out because they were used to like count out finishes and shit like that. So that's what it was. Like Hogan wasn't gonna go over there. Like it was basically Hogan isn't gonna get pinned by Inoki, you know.
Yeah,
But this is what 85.
85. He's
So,
he's into his title run. So,
but he doesn't know what's gonna fucking happen, you
mm-hmm.
know. And he made more money before he got there. Before he got to Vince and was making all that money as the champ, he made his most money in Japan. So he's like, what if I go to this WWF shit and it failed? I shouldn't say shit, but you know what I mean? Like, say I get to this WWF thing and it doesn't work. I got to come back here and I just lost to Inoki, and Inoki's not going
Right.
to put Hogan over because Hogan ain't coming back. So fuck it. We're just going to do a count out. Not saying that's exactly what happened, but if the
Probably
accounts of the magazine are accurate, that's probably the backstage thought process of the show.
mm-hmm. Most likely. Bidding war has erupted between WWF managers Jimmy Hart, Bobby Heenan, and Fred Blassie. They are all scrambling to obtain the contract of Macho Man Randy Savage.
Great
I'm
fucking
honored.
angle.
I'm
That's a
honored,
great fucking
Savage
angle.
says. All these great men want to guide my career, while I'll be holding out for the best deal and the biggest money. Hart, however, may have the inside track as he once managed Savage in the mid-southern area. As of press time, sources close to Hart say that a deal between the two is near to being closed. And I think that was probably the original plan until somebody saw his girlfriend.
Yeah, or him just wanting her to be on the road with him,
Right. Well,
But
I'm saying like before somebody, probably Vince, saw her and said, "We should put her on TV." It was probably going to be Jimmy Hart.
yeah, because I mean, she was on TV in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
She was the quote unquote host or whatever of IWA or what or not IWA, the PAFO promotion, ICCW. Yeah, but yeah, and I just thought that was a cool angle with all the managers wanting this guy and it people don't understand, like you were talking about when we were talking about 97. It was even more different back then. Like people can't understand. Nobody knew, like they'd see Savage maybe in a magazine, but nobody knew who the
Right.
fuck this guy was. And it instantly made him over because all these managers of top stars were clamoring to get the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought all the managers, all the heel managers, um, petitioning to get Randy Savage as their guy was a great angle.
I agree. Made
Because
for really
typically
good
you didn't see
television.
that. They would just show up and like, this guy's just with Fred Blassie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
They put the heel managers, I don't want to say it. Typically they weren't like at odds with each other,
Yeah. They weren't competitive.
But this put them at odds with each other.
Billy Jack Haynes and Scott McGee have become a steady tag team in Florida and are looking to capture the U.S. Tag Team Championship, currently held by Ravishing Rick Rude and Jesse Barr. It's an interesting team that I didn't even know happened. That's probably not because I think it stinks or anything, but that's probably a promotion, to be honest with you, a territory, I guess, that I haven't seen a lot of. I know a bit from listening to like certain people that do know talk about it, but Florida, I just like territorial Florida. I haven't seen a lot of it.
Yeah, and I haven't either. And part of it is the fact that by this time it wasn't what it was. Like 60s and 70s, like when you read about it, you're like, God damn, this thing was fucking gangbusters.
Yeah.
Like all the people they had and everything. But not to be morbid or anything, but when Eddie Graham shot himself, he kind of killed the town. You know what I mean? Like I don't mean to say it that way, but there wasn't anybody that was going to come in after him that was going to make it a thing.
Right.
After that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, one of your favorites here. Wild Bill Irwin is still favoring his left leg following his biker battle against Florida champion Hector Guerrero. What is a biker battle, you ask? It's a match that permits each man to bring any piece of biker equipment into the ring with him. Irwin brandished a chain, but Guerrero, who opted to come into the ring empty-handed, emerged victorious. After the match, however, Hector grabbed a chair and repeatedly smashed Irwin's left leg.
Like, what other biker equipment? Like, biker equipment?
I mean, I guess you could bring a helmet.
Helmet.
a big tire.
What am I bringing in? You're wanting to be as minimal as possible. Like you're wanting to be as minimal as possible with your bike. But whatever. That's dumb.
It'd have been funny if somebody would have brought one of those like helmets that people wear when they ride their bike and a water bottle or something. Yeah.
Did you just bring a hazard light? What's that? A
basket. Ring, ring, ring. Sergeant Slaughter is the new America's champion. Slaughter pinned Larry Zbyszko on June 22nd in Chicago to win the coveted belt. The end came when Slaughter dropped Larry backward with a combination chinlock and trip out, and then he hooked Larry's legs and pinned him. America can be proud of this belt now, Slaughter said at the post-match conference. Let me warn all wrestlers, foreign or American, that I will defend the honor of the Americas for the people. For the people.
What promotion was that?
AWA.
All right. Actually, probably wouldn't have been a bad match. Larry Zbyszko and Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, because he had left the WWF for the whole G.I. Joe thing. Because Vince was like, no, and Slaughter was like, it's better money.
Yeah, and Slaughter also, I think, in our age group, you know, like when he came back as like the Iraqi sympathizer and this, that, and everything, he wasn't as good as he was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You go back and watch him in like the 70s and the early 80s and shit. Bob Slaughter was actually really good.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And obviously Larry was fucking good. You know, like by the time Bob got the belt, like he was a half a step less than what he was before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even knocking him for it. He was older and bigger, you know.
Yeah.
But like when he was like in Mid-South or Mid-Atlantic and all that shit, like he could go, man.
Yep. And he again at this time, if he wouldn't have left, if him and Vince could have come to some sort of terms, Hogan still would have been the man, but Slaughter most definitely would have been the number 2 babyface in the company.
Yeah. This is I know you said you only want to keep the show like an hour and 15 or whatever, but he probably would have been the Snuka, or he probably would have been in the Snuka spot, I think.
Or he might have teamed with Hogan and T would have been the outside the ring guy.
Yeah.
He definitely would have been up at the top. And honestly, because I don't, you don't know what the original plan was, or at any point, honestly, I could see with as over as Slaughter was, I could see maybe if Slaughter stuck around, Vince not leaving the belt on Hogan this long for that first term or title run. Possibly. I'm not saying he'd be like, this is a failure. I'm just saying he would have had another baby face. He probably could have been confident, could have carried the show, for a little bit, maybe while Hogan was in a down here, and then Hogan comes back and gets the belt back or whatever. But all right, our correspondence reports. The first one is sent in by Javier Fernandez from San Juan, Puerto Rico. It is the World Wrestling Council. How about this match? The junior heavyweight title. The Invader number 3 beat NWA junior heavyweight champion Denny Brown. Oh, Denny Brown.
That guy was champ like as long as Moolah, I think, wasn't he?
It seems like it. I don't know. Denny Brown doesn't do much for me. like I don't know. Boring name. Like boring person.
He was the fucking Roman Reigns of the junior heavyweight division, though. Like he came out in Poughkeepsie and was like, "Acknowledge me, Denny Brown."
Actually, it'd have been like, "Acknowledge me, Denny Brown." In other bouts,
let me know you know I'm here.
In other bouts, Carlos Colon beat Elijah Akeem. Hercules Ayala, Super Medic, and Al Perez defeated Fidel Sierra and the Kiwi Sheep Herders. Jesus.
Whoa.
You know, that I'm usually really, really good at pronouncing names, but I always have a problem with the Hercules I'm just like I don't know why it's so hard for me to say.
Ayala.
And they always pronounce it. They always pronounce it like it has 2 Y's. Like they're always like Hercules Hayaya. So I don't know.
Well, they're speaking a different language, but I couldn't say that Toshiba guy or whatever that was on Nitro this week. So it's all right.
Jumpin' Joe Savoldi beat Eric Embry by disqualification.
Like Eric Embry.
Eric Embry, one of the unsung great like crybaby heels of all time. I love Eric Embry. Terrace Bulba beat Gino Della Sera. Chicky Star beat Tony Falk. And Ricky Fajuki beat Rick Morgan. That Chicky Star guy, he's something else.
He was like actually pretty entertaining. Like if you watch stuff from him in Puerto Rico, he was a charismatic dude, man. He was like a Puerto Rican like Flair or Embry, or you know what I mean, like a flamboyant type heel. I enjoyed him.
Let's see here. We're going to South. I think it's South Kakalaki. I turned the page too quick. Yeah, Columbia, South Carolina. So you know this is going to be Crockett country.
Maybe not even Embry. Sorry, like he reminded me of like because I don't like I said I'm not like a genius or historian for some of the other countries or whatever, but I'd say if you had to equate Chicky Star to somebody that American wrestling fans would know, he's like Puerto Rican Gino Hernandez. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, and by saying Puerto Rican, we mean he was in some ultra violent shit.
Yeah, and I'm just saying like the character that he projected or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, not the biggest guy in the world, but he was cocky. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
That's all right. Columbia, South Carolina. Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant.
Probably starting with Paul Jones.
Yep. Against Conga the Barbarian in a cage. In the end, Valiant got a sleeper hold on Conga and weakened him enough to run out of the cage. And after the match, of course, the Barbarian and Paul Jones beat Valiant relentlessly, and he had to be rescued by Sam Houston and Pat Tanaka. We were talking on another show about how I think it's funny when it's like odd combinations of wrestlers, and that's an odd combination of wrestlers right there.
Combination. And that Jimmy Valiant Paul Jones feud went for like 27 years. I think they're still feuding.
And Jones is dead, and they're still feuding.
Boogeyman is fucking cutting a promo at his grave right now.
Mercy, Daddy. Dusty Rhodes and Manny Fernandez defeated Ivan and Nikita Koloff by disqualification.
Probably a good match.
Superstar Graham defeated Sam Houston. This is weird, Superstar Graham.
Is that when he was like a ninja?
Yeah, he had like the ninja pants and the I don't know. That's weird. Like it's a weird thing.
He's one guy that I was just never like a big fan of to begin with, but then when he became a ninja, I was just like, whatever.
I'm not a humongous Billy Graham fan either. Like probably the stuff I like the most of Billy Graham is his stuff with Dusty. Other than that, I mean, I can see why the New York crowd in the 1970s dug him because, fuck, you've had Bruno and Killer just stomping each other for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And
yeah, they were kind of boring.
I'll tell you,
Yeah.
and stuff. I mean, you got this guy that comes in, he's flamboyant and different, and speaking poems and shit.
I understand the promos and everything, but like once he got in the ring, I was just like, whatever. It just never really did anything for me. And then it's I hate to like indict somebody off what they did in the business and what they did after it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a hard time getting behind Billy Graham just because I wasn't alive,
Right.
when he was doing his career. And now I look at him and I'm like, you're a fucking shitbag human being. I don't like you. It's kind of, and I can say that I'm not being unrealistic in it because in the entire time I was alive, guess who was super over in that entire time? That wasn't very great in the ring, but was super charismatic. The Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
I can get into that guy because he is a fucking trash, but he was a trash bag human being. But go ahead. Sorry.
The next match, Arn Anderson defeated Stony Burke.
I don't know who Stony Burke is. Is that the person that's like? Is that the person that Trump fucked?
No. Well, I mean, he might have fucked him on a real estate deal or something, but. And then Denny Brown and Pat Tanaka wrestled to a draw. Denny Brown's all over the place here in 1985.
Pat Tanaka.
And then
inflated ego.
Yeah. Bloomington, Minnesota. Oh, look, our correspondent for this is kind of fun, actually. Bloomington, Minnesota, the correspondent, Wade Keller. That's kind of neat. Wade was writing into the magazines before he even had his own shit. That's fun. That's interesting. It's the WWF. Bob Orton wrestled a Paul Orndorff, and of course, this is when Orndorff was a babyface with Hulk Hogan. And the funny thing is, of course, Hulk Hogan fucked over his friend. Orton left the ring, only this time he was met by Hulk Hogan, who had taken station at ringside. Hogan started battering Orton, and as a result, Orndorff was disqualified.
Heel in the fucking world, Hulk Hogan.
Babyface Hogan is such a heel.
And by 96, Bobby was just like, I've been telling you for 10 years. This guy's a scumbag.
In other bouts, Hulk Hogan defeated Magnificent Morocco by disqualification. It's all coming down.
He probably brought the chair in the ring and Morocco got caught with it.
Tito Santana.
Eddie Guerrero shit.
Tito Santana defeated Greg Valentine by disqualification. Jim Neidhart, spelled Neidhardt, and Bret Hart, Bret spelled with 2 T's, defeated Salvatore Bellomo and George Wells. It's Salvatore Bellomo and Master G against the Hart Foundation.
I hope they came out to like Rapper's Delight.
Ken Patera beat Swede Hansen. Ugh. Jesus. Oh, man. It's like, and this is the WWF in the 80s, and they're like, here is this match from 1977.
Well, this was them getting rid of some of them guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure like a Swede Hansen had like a, I don't know. He had there. It's like, we got to finish you out, you know.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just haven't ever seen enough. I don't understand Swede Hansen's his whole thing. Like his first name's Swede, which would make you think he's like Swedish, and his last name's Hansen, which makes you think of like Texas. But he's a hillbilly with the stars and bars on the. I don't understand what his fucking anything about the guy. And then he's got like red hair, so he could be Irish. I don't know what his gimmick is.
He's just a big dude.
Stunk. Everything I've ever seen of him, he fucking stunk. The Spoiler beat Tony Garea. And SD Jones and Steve Lombardi wrestled to a draw, as they always did.
Yeah. So where'd you say this was at?
Bloomington, Minnesota.
Oh, this is definitely Vince like shipping off a little bit of his. Well, I mean, Hogan was on it,
Mm-hmm.
but this is, and Hogan was probably in it because they were in Minneapolis, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
But
yeah,
Vince
close to Minneapolis. Yeah.
Vince was trying to shut that shit down. But this was definitely a crew of guys that Vince is like, we're not doing anything else with these people. We gotta get
send Swede Hansen to.
We gotta get rid of the Swede.
The introducing article in this magazine is for Kendall Kendall Windham. He's long and lanky and a little bit raw. He reminds Florida fans ever so much of Barry Windham when he entered the pro ranks in 1980, which is not surprising. His name is also Windham, Kendall Windham, and he could become a big star. I think the only reason he didn't was because he never filled out.
He did once he got into like the West Texas Rednecks and shit. But yeah, like he didn't mature as quick as Barry did. Because if you look at old shit with Barry was the same way.
Yeah, oh yeah. Like
so,
when he's
like so skinny, his nipples touched.
When he's doing Blackjack Mulligan Jr. in Mid Atlantic, he almost looks pathetic. Like he's just the mustache. He's got a weak mustache. He's got a weak build. Like everything about him is weak.
And obviously Kendall wasn't as charismatic as Barry, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But Kendall probably would have been able, if Kendall would have not had that, like there's no way it was going to be as charismatic as Barry, but if he would have had the build sooner, he probably would have been. I'm not saying he would have been as big as Barry or his dad, but he would probably had a different career.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
because he wasn't bad in the ring at all.
Oh no, he was actually really good in the ring.
And I don't think he grew into his body as soon as would have been better for his career, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. The next article, How the Fans Saved George the Animal Steele. In a year that has already borne witness to Coca-Cola changing its century-old formula, it should come as little surprise that George the Animal Steele has turned into a fan favorite. But it does. It really does. He was playing the crazy heel for so many years, and then we reached the cartoon era of the WWF, or the rock and wrestling era, whatever you want to call it. And instead of just letting him fade away, they figured out what to do with him. You know what I mean? And he made a lot of fucking money. He probably made more money doing this than he ever did in the previous 20 years that he was wrestling.
Yeah, and it was super entertaining. I love fucking babyface George the Animal Steele. Have you ever seen his Hall of Fame induction?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's insane because he's so eloquent when he does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, this guy's such a good fucking talker, and they never let him do it. And if they would have, it probably would have killed it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I don't want to say the entire idea of him, and the greatest thing was it's so ridiculous, but the reactions of the other wrestlers to him, like the reactions of the heels, they're even like, this is ridiculous. He's like kicking their butt, but they're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. We've talked before in the past about like in our generation, if Triple H wouldn't have had Foley, he wouldn't have got as over as he was.
Mm-hmm.
If Randy wouldn't have had George, he wouldn't have gotten over as much as he was. It to me, that might seem off base or whatever, but I think it's the same type of thing.
Well, and you have, what do I want to say? You're able to do, okay, because Randy was a heel. So if you had any other baby face coming on to Liz, that makes that baby face the heel because he's trying to steal another man's woman. But George is a simpleton who doesn't. It's not like George has like
he wasn't trying to fuck her,
right. He's just like, she's pretty and I want to be her friend. He's yeah. So it's the perfect way to have somebody trying to take Liz away from Savage, but it doesn't make that guy the heel.
Yeah, and it's this super athletic guy that can't fit, for lack of a better term, and I don't know if you're allowed to use this word anymore, but it's a super athletic, talented wrestler, stud guy trying to figure out this mongoloid, and the mongoloid's like getting the best of him, and then he outsmarts him, and it's like it's complete polar opposites feuding with each other, and I feel that was and like Randy Savage's character didn't run away from a lot of people, but he would run away from George Steele.
It's crazy, man.
Crazy. And it just fucking worked. And that's the best modern thing that I can think of to try to explain to wrestling fans now of what the Savage Steele dynamic was Foley and Triple H.
The next article, David Schultz gets an NWA title shot. Ric Flair says, I wrestle the men Hulk Hogan is afraid of. The ongoing battle between two of the sport's top three champions has taken a turn in favor of Ric Flair as the three-time NWA champ continues to battle the competition that according to some, Hulk Hogan has steadfastly avoided. Apparently this match with Schultz happened in West Warwick, Rhode Island.
I'd actually love to see it. I don't think I've ever seen Dave Schultz wrestle Ric Flair, but I'd probably enjoy it.
I'm assuming it wasn't promoted by Crockett. I don't know who would have been promoting it in West Warwick, Rhode Island, but whoever it is, Flair did a shot for him and wrestled Dr. D.
I don't know who it would have been either because that's a Vince area.
I'm trying to see. Let's see. Continue on page 62. I'm trying to see. Like nowhere in here does it mention the you know what I mean, like the promotion name. Let me see here.
Maybe they just fucking made it up and it didn't happen.
No, there's literally pictures of the match. Like it's here. I mean, it happened. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say a promotion in here, so unless Crockett did do a stop there and Schultz happened to be in town or something, I don't know. But yep, Ric Flair, it's here. It's on record. It happened.
Right.
But yeah, Dave Schultz, one of the great heels that never got to do his thing in the big league, like during that time.
Yeah. Like I said, I would love to see a Ric Flair David Schultz match, and I'd love to hear them cutting promos on each other. Like Ric Flair could probably be the only guy that could make David Schultz a babyface.
Right. So they have a thing here. My thing is with something like this, is it worth reading any of them? Because it says wrestling greats choose their top 10. But do you think Bruno actually told them who his top 10 were, or do you think a writer just made it up?
This is what, 85?
Yeah.
Probably just made it up.
I'm sure. Well, let's do Bruno's. According to the Wrestler, these are Bruno Sammartino's top 10 favorite wrestlers.
I can tell you. I'll tell you if I think if this is made up or if he actually said it. Go ahead.
Okay. Number 10, Pedro Morales. Number 9, Ivan Koloff. Number 8, Professor Toru Tanaka. Number 7, Gorilla Monsoon. Number 6, Vern Gagne. Number 5, Buddy Rogers. Number 4, Ken Patera. Number 3, Dr. Bill Miller. Number 2, Don Leo Jonathan. And number 1, Killer Kowalski.
I think that's real.
Okay.
The reason I say I think that's real is because those were guys, a lot of those guys were guys that he was in that locker room with in the 70s, and he didn't mention like Hulk Hogan's name or any of that shit. So unless somebody was smart enough to go, if we were really asking Bruno, he wouldn't say like Hogan or Flair, you know. That's the only reason I might say it's fake, is because somebody was smart enough, like a Bill Apter or somebody was smart enough to go, he wouldn't say anybody that's like super current.
Yeah. He's not going to be like, I like that Ric Flair.
That Ricky Flair and that Boogie Woogie man. And he wouldn't say that shit. So I might believe that.
Well, let's see here. I don't think there's any. I mean, there's an article about Misty Blue, but whatever. Like I said, all the ads are the same. Yeah.
It was probably Killer Kowalski. If you want to know who Misty Blue.
So I guess since there's really not any other articles left, let's get into the rankings. The official ratings for this month, it's for period ending June 26th, 1985. And we'll just go with the number one wrestler is Ric Flair, singles, and the number one tag team are the AWA World Tag Team Champions, the Road Warriors.
All right.
So now we'll go into the specific promotions. The NWA, number 10, Tully Blanchard. Number 9, Gino Hernandez. The thing to think about with the NWA at this time, folks, is it still encompasses some of these other promotions.
Like a lot of times when people think of NWA, they think a
just
JCP.
Crockett.
Yeah, they just think of JCP. It's not JCP at this point in '85. It's countrywide.
Yes. That's why number 8 is Hercules Hernandez, because at this point he was still in Mid-South.
You know what my favorite Hercules Hernandez story is? Other than him fucking pulling a fucking car door down the road, is Fred Blassie was his original manager in the WWF. And he said, I'm going to make this guy the first Mexican heavyweight champion.
He says Latin. He says the first
Latin heavyweight champion. And they're like, he's not Latin. Well, of course he is.
His last name's Hernandez.
I fucking love that story. But go ahead.
Hercules was great, by the way.
Oh, fantastic. I think he's an underrated fucking wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm not even, how do I want to say it? Like, I'm not even saying it just because of his gimmick or what. I'm saying like bell to bell, like that dude for being as jacked as he was and everything. Like when he got to WWF, he didn't get put with like the right people. And I don't even want to say, because I hate people who are like, oh, the WWF ruins people. They don't use people right or whatever. when he was in the ring with somebody that could fucking go, he was right along with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when he feuded, like, and you get in the 90s, like early 90s, like when he feuded with the Rockers and shit, he could go
Well,
with
even when he feuded with DiBiase, the whole slave thing or whatever.
yeah.
He had good matches with DiBiase, but yeah, then if you put him in the ring with a guy that is also a gigantic muscle bound dude,
He's the guy carrying the fucking match.
right?
You know? Yeah. Hercules Hernandez is
And also one of the most, like, I guess I'd say one of the most, like, badass fuck yous in the history of wrestling is when he no sells Sid when he was about to leave, and Sid gives him that power bomb, and he just, like, Sid pins him, but he pretty much just no sells it and get up. He takes the fall. He takes the fall, but then he's like, "Fuck this bullshit." He doesn't say.
because he's looking at Sid Unity like, what are you gonna do about it? Fucking Ray Hernandez, motherfucker. Do something about it, squeegee boy.
Number 7 is Kerry Von Erich. Number 6, the gentleman Chris Adams. Number 5, Nikita Koloff. Number 4,
which number 6?
Go ahead.
Which if number 6 wouldn't have been such a fucking train wreck, should have been one of the biggest wrestlers to ever exist, in my opinion. But go ahead.
Number 4, Black Bart.
Bleh.
Number 3, Dusty Rhodes. Number
Wet
2
Fart should have been his name.
Number 2, Jerry Blackwell. Number 1, Magnum TA. And the NWA World Champion, Ric Flair.
I know we were talking about territories and shit, but there's no way fucking Jerry Blackwell's goddamn name should be high on that list. But something was going on in the AWA that I don't know about, but no way.
The AWA top 10. Number 10, Ray Stevens. We call him the Streak. Number 9, Masked Superstar.
Look at that. He's at number 10.
Number 9, the Masked Superstar.
Bill Eadie.
Yep. Number 8, Kamala. Number 7, Jerry Blackwell. I don't understand how Jerry Blackwell is ranked 7 in the AWA, but he's ranked 2 in the NWA. Is this a misprint? What, like?
Apparently, he gave Abner a reach around or something.
Number 6, the Tonga Kid.
Haku.
Very young. Yeah, Haku was Tonga Kid. I'm pretty sure. Number 5, Butch Reed. Number 4, Nick Bockwinkel. Number 3, Larry Zbyszko. Number 2, Michael Hayes. Number 1, Sergeant Slaughter. And the AWA World Champion, of course, at this time is Rick Martel.
Sorry, Tonga was Sam Fatu. Sorry.
No, okay. Well, I got it mixed up too. Then, so but didn't when Haku first came into WWF, he wrestled under a different name, didn't he? He was some kind of kid or something, because I know he wasn't Haku when because he didn't. I don't think he even became Haku until he was with the Islanders.
I'm gonna look it up.
So I'm pretty sure he had some. Maybe he was King Tonga or something.
Yeah, King Tonga.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's all right. That's all right. I just, like I said, I get confused sometimes too.
That was Samu.
I get confused sometimes in that that whole brand.
Well, they do too. They do too, because they're like, "Oh, that's my uncle." Like, well, I thought you said he was your cousin. Well, it's my cousin uncle.
The WWF rankings: number 10, King Kong Bundy. Number 9, Jimmy Snuka.
Funny dude, by the way.
Yeah.
King Kong Bundy.
Not Snuka, folks. King Kong Bundy.
King Kong Bundy's funny. And I recently watched a thing with I recently watched a thing, like an interview with Hogan. And you know what he said that was like super interesting about Bundy? That I've never heard anybody say. He's like, if Bundy wouldn't have been so big, everybody realized, like, he was a handsome dude. That's what Hogan said about him. He's like, if he would have been so fat and had that like bubble neck or whatever, he's like, he's a good looking guy.
That's like saying she's got a pretty face.
Yeah. He said about Bundy. He's like, if you would have been a little smaller, he could have been a good looking baby face.
Could have been a heartthrob.
Plus, he said he was an all around good guy. And that
I don't understand why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
That's what Bundy said too. Like, that's one of my favorite things is Honky Tonk Man talked about that. He said Bundy was like, man, they're clamoring and calling you every year to get you to go in the Hall of Fame, and you were a fucking prick. But he's like, when I was there, I was a church mouse, and nobody calls me. He's like, I don't get it. And then I figured when he died, they'd put him in, and they still haven't. I don't understand it. He's a wrestler. Sorry. He's actually one of the wrestlers that non-wrestling fans know who he is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like non-wrestling fans know like Hulk Hogan, they know Ric Flair, they know The Rock, but they'll know King Kong Bundy. Like they recognize that fucking guy. It's like you said. I don't understand why he's not more celebrated in that company. I don't get it.
I don't know. Number 8, John Studd.
Yeah, I'm not a huge John Studd fan.
Number 7, Roddy Piper.
Big Roddy Piper fan.
Number 7, Tito Santana.
Huge Tito fan.
Number 5, JYD. Number 4, Paul Orndorff. Number 3, Rick Steamboat. Number 2, Magnificent Morocco. Number 1, Greg Valentine. And the world champion is Hulk Hogan. I want to go back to number 6 just because when I read his name, I thought about it. Whether people acknowledge it or not, in the history of that company, I'm just talking the WWF, in the history of that company, it doesn't get talked about enough the fact that bell to bell, literally Tito Santana is one of the best wrestlers in that company's history.
Oh, he is. And he was unselfish and a great citizen and just did his fucking job and nobody had a problem with him. Like, you know, what were we talking about? Well, I know what we were talking about on the show we recorded where we were talking about R-Truth. Like we were talking about like guys breaking people now on camera and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought up R-Truth and you said Truth was like the current, but I hate comparing people to whatever, where he was like the current generation's like Owen in the locker room where nobody has anything bad to say about him. Everybody fucking loves him, you know?
Right.
That 70s, 80s, that's fucking Tito. Maybe not as funny.
Right.
I'm not saying he's the funniest dude in the world, but nobody in that fucking locker room was like, that Tito Santana piece of shit.
Generally good guy.
Yeah. Like even the clique was just like, we want the Tito thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like if the clique universally loves you, like there were guys that some of the guys in the clique liked, but some of the guys in the clique hated, you know. But Tito was one of the ones that all of them liked, and I've never, I shouldn't even bring up the clique, but I've just never heard anybody. Before we even get into his in-ring ability, I've never heard anybody go, I hate Tito Santana.
Right.
And then in the ring, I've never heard anybody go, I went in the ring with Tito Santana, and that was a shit match.
Right.
One of the worst things I ever did. One of my favorite fucking cage matches is that cage match with him and fucking Valentine for the Intercontinental Championship when he like kicks the door into Greg and ends up climbing out and going like I honestly have never seen a bad Tito Santana match. Never
Me
have.
neither. Even against wrestlers that shouldn't have good matches, because they put him in the ring with
He got
everybody.
good fucking matches out of him.
Go down to Texas now. World Class Championship Wrestling. Number 10, Brian Adidas. Number 9, Mike Von Erich. Number 8, Scott Casey. Number 7, Killer Tim Brooks.
Was Mike Von Erich shocked he was on there? Sorry.
Number 6, Kabuki.
Okay.
Number 5, the One Man Gang. Number 4, Kevin Von Erich. Number 3, Kerry Von Erich. Number 2, Gino Hernandez. And number 1, Chris Adams. It's funny. Like, I know by this time he did have the mohawk and stuff. But it's funny watching like One Man Gang in Mid Atlantic when he had like long hair, and he just have on like jeans and a shirt that was too tight, and he just looked like this big fat slob.
And he'd do like his run-ins, like when he was first debuting, Yeah. And then you'd it's like you'd want somebody to describe what happened, and it would be like that fucking Appalachian guy that was describing the fucking Bigfoot. He's like, he had long, beautiful hair. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, describe to us what we just saw, Bill. Well, you did a run-in.
At some point, he had long
beautiful hair.
Disheveled and fat.
That's one of my favorite viral videos. He had long, beautiful hair.
Like, at some point, OMG walked into a locker room, and there was some promoter, maybe Fritz, I don't know, that was like, no, we got to. You are a machine. You're a monster, and I could make something out of you, but we have got to change your look.
You can't be running in there with shorty shorts and your long, beautiful hair. You gotta do something with that.
I know you could get away with that when around Bob Cottle and Oliver Humperdinck, but you're not gonna do that here.
And fucking, how do I want to say it? Like, a dude that big shouldn't be that nimble on his fucking feet. Like, to be able to, like, because you can look at it now and you'd think it looked cheesy, but back in the day, you weren't selling to the front row and you weren't selling the cameras, you were selling to the back row.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for him to be able to do like the big, like, Hogan punches you, or at this point, Kerry punches you, and you do the whoa, like the nimble shit to fall back and everything. Fucking George Gray, that dude was big and sloppy looking, but was nimble as fuck, man.
Yeah.
And I know we're not there, and we might get there eventually when we read fucking magazines or whatever. It's like that's why him and Boss Man were like a fucking great team. It was like, these two fucking big motherfuckers should not be able to do what they can do, but you could put them in that fucking ring with anybody. We could put them in there with Demolition, or we could put them in there with the fucking Rockers, and they can fucking go.
Yeah. Mid-South.
And him falling out of the ring is one of the funniest.
It is. It's one of the great
botches ever.
Mid-South, number 10, Dirty Dutch Mantel. Number 9, Iceman King Parsons.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
Who do you side with in the feud between Dutch Mantel and Ric Flair in their little Twitter war or whatever? Because Flair said Dutch did nothing and contributed nothing.
I'd say,
and Dutch basically says Flair's held on too long and should have retired.
Well, no, and Dutch is absolutely right there. I think that Well, to be honest with you, I think they both look pathetic because they're going on the internet like they're these AEW marks or something, and shitting on each other on the internet. So they both look pathetic. But if I'm taking a side, I would probably say,
pathetic?
what's that?
Who's the least pathetic?
I'd say in that one, Dutch looks the least pathetic.
I agree, and I'm a Ric Flair fan.
Yeah.
So I just wanted your take on it.
Yeah, Flair to me, like, I know I've said it on a show or something before. I've had to have said it before. I have this thing in my brain that his career ended at WrestleMania 24. Like, I don't watch the TNA stuff that he did. I don't even know if I watched it when it happened. I've never seen that Ric Flair's last match thing, and I'm never going to. I just, like, it's sad. It's sad, especially because of how great he is and was.
Yeah.
You know?
I almost watched it, but then I saw he was like in a purple like Dranimals outfit, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch this.
Number 8 in Mid-South, Jake Roberts.
But when they started fighting with each other, all I was thinking was thinking about like Dutch Mantel sitting on his porch being like, Guff Dustin.
Are you dead?
Like Flair falling off his roof and Dutch Mantel being like you said, are you dead?
Are you dead?
It's like these grumpy old men. What are they doing?
Number 7, Kamala. Number 6, Steve Williams. Number 5, Hacksaw Duggan. Number 4, the Snowman.
So this was Mid-South?
Yeah, the Snowman. One of the first attempts at recreating JYD. Like, Bill Lutz is like, just give me a black guy. Like, it's not going to work.
Like, you already had Jake. He was the original Snowman.
Number 3, Ted DiBiase. Number 2, Dick Murdoch. And number 1 is the Nightmare. Man, DiBiase in Mid-South. If you have not seen Ted DiBiase in Mid-South, for those of you that might be younger, or maybe all you know of Ted DiBiase is the $1 Million Man, which is great.
As soon as he puts on the black glove.
Yes, the $1 Million Man is great. But watch some heel Ted DiBiase in Mid-South. He's one of the great heels of all time. That's both Mid-South and the WWF run together. But if you haven't seen the Mid-South stuff, you need to do yourself a favor and do that.
He calls Ole Anderson, you big fat bag of wind.
And we will round it out here with the rankings from Florida. Like I said, I don't know a lot about Florida, especially in the 80s, but number 10 is Rip Rogers. Number 9, wee little Mike Graham. Number 8, Bugsy McGraw. Number 7, Blackjack Mulligan. Number 6, Billy Jack Haynes. Number 5, Wahoo McDaniel. This is actually a pretty cool top 10. Number 4, Rick Rude. Number 3, Jesse Barr. Number 2, Hector Guerrero. And number 1, I guess I was wrong earlier. At this point, Hercules is not in Mid-South because he is number 1 ranked here in the state of Florida. So Hercules Hernandez, number 1.
Well, he could have been in both.
Yeah, you're right. But an interesting kind of little mishmash of talent here in the Florida territory in 1985.
Other than Bugsy, it's all right. I know there's people that like Bugsy McGraw and everything. I never got the interest in him, and when they put him with like Boogie Woogie, I'm like, oh my fucking
yeah. Bugsy McGraw is one of those guys that anytime I've ever seen him do like an interview or something outside of wrestling, like not outside of wrestling, but do it like a shoot interview or anything like that, he seems like a really cool dude. But yeah, his wrestling persona and his in the ring stuff, not my bag of sand.
Why are you spinning? What are you doing?
And what's with the hat?
The hat? Why are you spinning? Fuck off out of here.
Like I said, seems like a perfectly nice gentleman, but his wrestling persona.
So does the Boogie Woogie Man. He seems like a nice guy. Like, I don't have any problem with him, like, like, just off his like whatever. But it's like I don't want to watch you work, and I hate your fucking promos and your big mama. It's like I don't want anything to do with you. You look like you look like you smell like fucking Pall Malls and stale parts.
Well, everybody, that is going to wrap it up for the October 1985 edition of The Wrestler here on the Pro Wrestling Magazine Spotlight Show on YouTube for the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network. Aaron, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
And I want to encourage everybody to keep tuning into the shows as podcasts. Let your friends know about it. And, of course, if you have not yet, click that little subscribe button down there and turn on the notifications so we let you know when there is a new show here on the YouTube page. That being said, we're going to see everybody around next time. I'll put another poll up here in just a couple of days so you can pick the next magazine we go through. But we'll see you all next time here on YouTube. Have a great week, everybody.